Thank you. Thank you. I think there are undercurrents in my topic which go against the established discourse. It is about non-tariff barriers and the experience of Nepal. And the ever important theme of removing legal challenges for stronger economic cooperation in Asia has multifarious dimensions. One such dimension is fair trade and non-tariff barriers. In my presentation here, I argue that non-tariff barriers are a means for Nepal to protect its agriculture sector, including livestock and sustainable tourism. There is also a need to diversify and enable Nepal's trade partners in order to avoid dependence on one trade partner against another. It is important, however, that Nepal is able to optimally determine the length of the implementation of such non-trade barriers, as their long-term usage can result in several economic loss. I don't explain here what exactly are meant by non-trade barriers because they are much talk of the town. So instead, I want to explain why non-tariff barriers in Nepal in the or similar agricultural economy the contexts are different. Scholars and institutions alike have argued for and against non-tariff barriers in agriculture economies. Like Nepal, some argue that given the distortions in economy because of non-tariff barriers, consumers suffer from food insecurity and insufficiency. However, while economic theory explains that NTB's non-tariff barriers disrupt trade flow and efficiency from the perspective of a developing country, NTB appeared to be an attractive solution to protect the local economy and producers. Nepal's largest trading partner is India, and from 2009 to 2015, Nepal imported close to USD 26 billion, or approximately 63% of total imports of products from India. But I have given the figure here that illustrates the vast difference in imports from India compared to the rest of the world. Other trade partners like China, Singapore, Saudi Arabia and Indonesia have exported significantly smaller volumes in Nepal. As a landlocked country, Nepal is surrounded by India on three sides and China, Tibet in the north. Until recently, the Nepali government's effort to dismantle trade barriers with China have faced difficult challenges, including the ever-present Himalayan topography. On the other hand, the close cultural, religious, and geographical axes with India have resulted in close ties between the two countries. The Indo-Nepal Treaty of 1996, that was amended in 2009, grants two countries maximum facilities and permission to undertake all necessary measures for the free and unhampered flow of goods. Additionally, Nepal and India are also exempt from basic custom duties as well as from quantitative restrictions. The import of such primary products as may be mutually agreed upon. Consequently, from 2009 to 2015, nearly 70% of food products imported into Nepal were from India. In the meantime, trade from the rest of the countries in the world is limited, as I have depicted in figure 1. Nepal has come to rely heavily on India's supply of food products, including rice, petroleum, oil and gases, motorcycles, medicaments, and motor vehicles. Such dependence has caused has cost Nepal greatly. A prime example is the Nepal-India blockade lasting from September 2015 to February 2016 due to civil unrest involving ethnic minorities in Nepal's southern neighbor. The blockade resulted in a shortage of and thus a hike in prices of essential goods such as medicine, fuel, books, paper, and ink. In fact, Nepal's finance minister announced in November 2015 that the growth forecast for 2015 was down to 2% from 6% due to the blockade. Such an example begs the following conclusion. If Nepal had the if Nepal had been sufficient in adequately meeting the deficit of these goods through other means, perhaps such a disaster could have been avoided. As of 2016, Nepal's top exports include flavored water, knotted carpets, non-synthetic staple fibers, and nutmeg, while its top imports are refined petroleum, motorcycles, gold, rice, and cars. However, although 71.74% of Nepali people as of 2017 are employed in the agriculture sector, the investment and returns in the agriculture sector are low. Nepal's value-added agriculture annual growth has fallen from 5.82% in 2008 to a mere 0.03% in 2016. Therefore, Nepali people seek employment abroad where there are more opportunities for growth and stability. In the result, Nepal faces a drain of labor and a risk of shortage of labor as Nepalese move abroad to countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Malaysia. Although Nepal's comparative advantage lies in the agriculture sector, Nepal has low competitiveness and productivity in agriculture. Despite its potential, there are various reasons for this, including inadequate mechanisms and incentives for farms to acquire new technology, weak infrastructure, and unfavorable business climate. Therefore, faced with a chain of labor from the fields and coupled with low productivity and investment, Nepal meets its demand for agricultural goods by importing food from India that could be produced competitively inside its own borders. There are benefits of non-tariff barriers to Nepal for sure. Currently, Nepali producers cannot compete with the imported agriculture goods from India, which is hurting Nepal's economic base. Therefore, there is a need to list some agriculture goods as import sensitive, thereby protecting the agricultural industry. From an infant industry protection perspective, non-tariff barriers would provide Nepal's agriculture sector the support needed to develop its technology, physical equipment, and research and development to compete in the global market. Scholars advise that it is important to determine the right term through which the non-tariff barriers are implemented, as long-term non-tariff barriers result in decreasing GDP. This means that non-tariff barriers must be implemented as a temporary solution, and rigorous investment in agriculture is necessary to move the economy forward and eventually eliminate trade barriers. In the short term, however, non-tariff barriers would limit India's monopoly over such products. Because non-tariff barriers may lead to decreased social welfare through increasing prices of goods, long-term inflation, or even trade wars, there is a vital need for Nepal to diversify its trade partners and establish trade relationships that are able to provide competitive prices to Nepali consumers. Specifically, agriculture trade liberalization should involve simultaneous reforms simultaneous reforms of the trade regime and domestic production support and mechanism. Given Nepal's difficult geography, trade with countries other than India is challenging, and Nepali policy need to enable foreign countries to trade and invest in Nepal. Therefore, Nepal needs to consider an economic policy implementation that accounts for the need for protection of its agricultural sector, as well as the diversification and increased volume of trade from other trade partners. For the future, the Nepali government shows signs of hope for the future of agriculture in Nepal. Most recently, Finance Minister Dr. Yuvraj Khatiwada announced during the Joint Assembly of Federal Parliament that agriculture will be developed as the basis of poverty alleviation, end of employment, and food security. More specifically, the Prime Minister Agriculture Modernization Project will be granted rupees 4.77 billion to invest in agriculture by providing technical knowledge and skills about agriculture and livestock, investing in fruit nursery establishment and plant distribution, and providing fertilizer, seed, pesticides, medicine, and equipment for agricultural production, among various other initiatives. With a tactful use of non-tariff barriers and a determination to invest in the livelihood of its people through agriculture, the Nepal government had the opportunity to stimulate growth and prosperity within Nepal and its economy. With increased opportunities of growth and freedom of choice at home, Nepal will retain its people and their labor within its borders, paving the way for an open and competitive economy. Many thanks for your patience to listen to me.